is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of Stop, Nick. Welcome to another episode of The Break. We are back here in Oxnard, California. How are you guys doing? Great.
Good.
Awesome.
I'm awesome. I'm so good.
All right, guys, buckle in your seatbelt because you're in for a great ride over here, okay?
Right.
The Cowboys had their first preseason game, and it was against the 49ers. You know, these types of scores don't matter. It was 17-9. 49ers won, but that doesn't stop fans to start criticizing and start talking like, man, this season's going to suck. Fire Jason Garrett. He's still here. He's going to be here this whole season. So stay buckled, okay?
Sure.
All right, let's do it.
Damn. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, somebody's going to get fired. It might not be Jason Garrett.
In the middle of the season?
Paul Alexander.
I mean,
happens every
anything
year.
could happen. That's
In the
true,
NFL.
but hey.
The NFL is a crazy beast.
That is true. But in the meantime, he's here, and
Yes.
he's expected to be here.
There you go.
All right? Okay, so let's go around the table and tell me your standout from the game. Nick, get us started.
The guy that I picked that I've been talking about forever had a sack in the game, Jalen Jelks. Not that I saw it because I think I was getting something like a snack or something, but but I did hear about it that he got a sack. That would be kind of easy because I mean he's just a rookie playing well. Let me say I thought Cheeto played well. I liked what Cheeto did as a starting cornerback. He was really aggressive on the ball, knocking the ball down a little bit. I thought, we hadn't talked a lot about him, which is probably a good thing as a corner, so Cheeto would be my guy. Dave.
Oh, okay. I didn't know which order you wanted to do that. Can I? Okay, whatever. I could talk about Cheeto played great. I thought Jalen Smith looked awesome. I thought Dak looked really good for the 4 plays that we got to see. I don't really care about any of that. Can I just say it stood out to me how scared I am of the kicker situation for this team. Like that's if I have one takeaway from the game, that's really what I'm dealing with right now because we saw it all last year. We've seen it out here at training camp, and it carried right on over into the preseason game. Brett Maher, 3 of 4, 3 makes. That's awesome. 35-yard miss. That's terrifying. And we can get more into it. Like I said, I thought the first team looked awesome. I thought the third team was awful. Everybody knows that if you watched. But man, I don't know what they're gonna do about this kicker thing. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, there are quite a few guys. I think, I assume we're going to get into that a little bit more and talk in depth about the kicker position. But there were quite a few guys I thought that stood out, and it started to me with Toni Pollard, just from the standpoint. Again, he didn't get a lot of carries, but what I loved about what they did with him is he had 4 carries, he had 16 yards, and all of those carries were between the tackles. And so we got an opportunity to kind of see him working in that kind of capacity. I don't think that was for any other purpose than for the Cowboys to kind of put it out there that, we might be all right if our 21 doesn't show up. We might still be able to do this.
Did you talk to Jerry Jones after the game? Is that why he said Toni Pollard is capable of carrying the whole load?
No, I mean this whole thing from the beginning, it's been very clear that Jerry's out there talking about the running back position, and it's talked about him. When they brought in Alfred Morris, they talked a lot about, we've been wanting him. Like, we were upset that we didn't get him last year. We think he's very capable, right? I think all of that is playing into this whole thing. But what I will say on that point, though, is I do believe that they at least publicly think that if they had to enter the season, they might be okay at running back with Pollard and the mashing together of those other guys. And I will say this, I don't necessarily think that would be a bad premise to take. Now, whether you can stand up 16 games, who knows? But I think for whatever period of games that you would want him in there, in 3, 4, 5 games, I think he might be able to be a guy that could be pretty effective running in a lot of different ways, between the tackles to the outside, catching the ball out of the backfield. I think he might be able to do a little bit of all of that. Might be a little bit worried about blitz pickup, but other than that, I think he might be able to handle the rest of those roles.
Man,
what were you about to say?
No, that was a long sentence. No, I think whether or not they're okay about it or not doesn't matter. I mean, because it is what it is. I mean, who are they going to go get? And the only guy that they could really go get at this point, they got him.
Yeah,
they got Alfred Morris. So they've already kind of done that. I mean, they might be scared to death about it, but they're not going to say it, because if they say it, then obviously that just drives up the leverage for Zeke. So I mean, yeah, it was good to see Pollard do all that stuff and run in between the tackles and that, but I mean, I don't think this is a situation where they're like, you know what, we might be okay. This team has been built to run the ball with Zeke like that, so I don't know.
It just reminds me of somebody who's going through a bad breakup on like Instagram, and they're just real open about it. Just, I'm doing great. I'm amazing. I'm at the beach. I'm at the gym.
Look at my new friend.
I don't need you. Yeah, like that's what the Cowboys are doing, and I don't buy it. Just like I don't buy it when my friends do that. I'm like, you're miserable. If you're posting on Instagram 6 times a day, you're miserable. I'm sorry. That's just how it is, and that's how I feel like the Cowboys are. I'm excited about Toni Pollard. Don't get me wrong, but like not to the point where I'm forgetting about 21. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
So.
And nor should anyone, including the Cowboys. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying I feel like they probably are looking at this like, okay, if he wants to keep holding out, we still know what our budget is. I don't think they feel like they're pressed to have to do something different than what they've already planned to do financially with him.
Yeah.
And if he wants to show up and play with that kind of deal, then he will. And if he doesn't, I think they're going to hold the line and be like, okay, well, we're going to roll what we got.
Yeah.
Now, based on, I mean, you talked about the first team. Clearly, they got into the red zone, and this is again the preseason and all that. But did it bother you, or did it concern you in any way that they weren't able to get into the touchdown area and score 6 points?
I wrote a whole column about that. I don't think so. It doesn't bother me yet. I'm not at the point to worry about red zone or really anything like that, because everything's vanilla. We know that. Defenses are vanilla too. I mean, and they're not trying to show a bunch of plays down there like that. And then also what they're built to run the ball and really push the pile, and they don't have their running back in there to do that. The one thing you can really look at and go, this is something that'll happen in the game, is snapping the ball, holding it, and kicking it. Like, that is something that, like, Maher is going to be doing that same thing, same play call in games. And so if you want to be concerned about that, you can, because that's not preseason to him. That's a game, and he's kicking. There's nothing preseason about it.
Yeah.
You know?
I understand if fans have concern, just because red zone was arguably this team's biggest problem all last year.
Fixed.
You want to see it look better.
Yeah.
And, how many – they got in there 4 times. I mean, and all the field goals were short range.
Yeah.
And I understand it, but, like, no, I'm not bothered either, because it's not only preseason, but it's the first game of the preseason. Like, you're not handling that as you would if it were the season. They didn't game plan for that opponent. Kellen Moore wasn't calling anything that he wants to use during the regular season. So it would have been fun if they had scored a touchdown. I'd way rather see Brett Maher kick for that exact reason. He missed one from 35. I hope he kicks 4 in all 4 games.
Yeah.
Preferably more. I hope he kicks like 20 times in the preseason, just from all angles and yardage and distance and everything, just to get a very clear idea of what we're looking at.
Now, Jerry was asked about the kicker position, and I know you were in on that. What was his response to the whole situation?
That was my lead off to the show, is how concerned I was. Jerry Jones was like, that's the only way we scored. I feel great about the kicker position.
He's like, I don't have a different opinion
how I
now
felt
than I
last
did
year.
before, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of standing there. I was like, it doesn't bother you that he missed an extra point?
I think everybody was kind of like, you were expecting something. You were expecting him to say something different, like, well, we would have wished that he would have.
Yeah.
He was just kind of like, well,
He's the only one
I was
scoring
okay with
points.
it. It was good.
And to this point, I'm not trying to freak anybody out, but that's kind of the organization. That's their whole attitude. Like, they don't seem as concerned about Maher as everybody else does, which,
Now,
take that for what it's worth.
I was by someone that works over on the football side, and I heard that person make a comment and was like, damn, kicker. Just not only this one, but in general around the guys that are out there in the market right now, and that made me feel like, okay, well, maybe Maher is their best option that they do have right now, and that's why they're sticking to it. You know how I know you've made it sound like, okay, they got all these kickers charted, and this is the next one, and it's not that far different.
That guy that's on the list, I don't know what their names are.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you that all of them, they had their moment where they missed a 31-yarder or a 28-yarder or something that got them out there. And I mean, I know that's Mickey's favorite line, is they're on the street for a reason, but they are.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is with kickers, it's all about confidence. You know, it's like, do you have the confidence? I mean, Nick Folk was a pretty good kicker for a lot of years in this league, and the Cowboys had to cut him in 2009 because he just couldn't make kicks right there. He went on and had a career for, I don't know, 8-9 more years. But right then and there, he just couldn't make kicks. And I'm not saying Maher's at that point, but I mean, if they have to go get someone else, it'll be someone else, and maybe that has more confidence. But it's going to be shaky all the way. I mean, it just is.
This game was no different than it was last year. He was 3 of 4. He was 75%. He kicked at 80% last year. He missed the largest percentage of his misses came 40 to 49 yards. The next largest percentage came at 30 to 39 yards. So that's who he is. That's what he's been. I don't know if that's necessarily going to change. And that may be what Jerry's point more was like, look, guys, this is what we got. Like, this is what we have, and we don't think there's anybody better on the street. You kind of have to just know that this is what you're dealing with a little bit. You got an 80% kicker, which means he's going to make a lot, but he's going to miss some. And some of the ones he misses probably have you scratching your head a little bit.
Now let's get into two injuries that are concerning, because these two guys were guys that were performing well, and they were having a good game. One very unfortunate one is Luke Gifford, who's a guy we've talked about on this show for sure. What is the update on his injury, and what is expected to happen here?
I know he had an MRI yesterday. Did not hear. I haven't heard about the
It's like an ankle
results.
sprain.
It's a high. I think he's got a high ankle sprain.
A pretty bad one.
The fear was a dislocation, right off the bat. And I was down on the field. I just remember looking at all of the doctors and trainers that kind of ran there, thinking, okay, this looks pretty bad, and it is actually. I mean, even it's a high ankle sprain. Those are tough. I mean, those can be 4 to 6 weeks, if not more. So we'll see about that. He's going to be here, though. I mean, he's on the team.
Yeah.
Or he's on the team or on injured reserve or something. I
Yeah.
think he's done enough to be like, this is somebody we can work with here. He made a play, interception before.
The nature of the injury raises an interesting question, though, because he's not done for the year, but he won't be taking part in the rest of training camp. So what do you do with him?
Yeah.
Do you put him on injured reserve right now, which ends his season? Like, if you put a guy on injured reserve during camp, it's Cedric Wilson all over again. He's done for the year, can't come back. You could wait until August 31st, which is what I think they'll probably do, is put him on injured reserve at roster cuts. He would have an opportunity to bring him back. You can designate 2 players to return from IR. So he would start the season on injured reserve, and you maybe see him in October.
The question that I have is, and this is what they're going to have to figure out, is when you get to August 31st, is where is he? Where is he with his rehab? Is it coming along pretty good? Is it just a few more weeks? And then also you got to look at the roster and go, all right, how is this game going to work for the Giants game? Say we put him on injured reserve and we go and now we have to keep this linebacker here, like a Covington, who's going to be inactive. If that's going to be the case for a few weeks, maybe he's not on injured reserve. Well, if he's the inactive linebacker,
you're going to have one inactive, right?
Yeah, that's true. It's tricky too, but guys like like a Tyron Smith, like he's not going to be that big of a part of most of these preseason games. It's not a big deal to carry a guy like him on the roster, but what do you do with a down-the-line guy? Like, you need guys like Luke Gifford to play meaningful snaps in preseason games.
Yeah.
So,
do you need that spot right now?
It says a lot about how much they like him if they just carry their 7th linebacker on the roster hurt for the rest of training camp, And I think that's probably what they'll do, because they don't want to risk losing him on waivers, and they probably don't want to shut his season down either. So that's pretty impressive that an undrafted free agent could theoretically go 2.5 weeks on the roster without
That's
being
why you
part
take
of it.
advantage of these days out here at training camp.
Yeah.
I mean, he did enough to have eyes on him.
Sure.
Now, another guy was Cedric Wilson, who, I mean, he got an illegal hit by a safety from the 49ers, and it was pretty tough.
It was a big
and he was
hit.
having a pretty good game, too. He was a guy that was making some plays, which wasn't completely surprising because he's had some of those moments out here, but he was probably, I would guess, you guys tell me what you think, I would guess he's probably the best receiver on the game. If you had to say who played kind of gave you the most plays, I would say it was probably him. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Of the back end guys, yeah. I mean, I thought Gallup was awesome in the opening drive, but yes.
It's a good catch that Wilson made over the middle, and it was a little bit behind him, and he makes a good play. I didn't love, and you guys, I think all were up there disagreed. I didn't love the ejection there. I didn't think that was a play that needs to be ejected from the game. But
I thought it was pretty dirty. He launched himself.
Yeah. He lined him up and then went to get him.
That play.
He didn't hit him in the head, though.
Yeah, that's beside the point. The guy was, I mean, defenseless receiver is not necessarily about the head, you know?
I guess I just hate the defenseless receiver thing.
Yeah.
When you're running a slant over the middle, I mean, I just don't know how you're going to be defenseless.
That's hard.
You know it's coming.
Well, you're defenseless because you're looking back at the ball, and so what they're trying to take out of the game, and what they actually have taken out of the game is you cannot, a guy that's looking back at the ball, it's the same thing as on kickoffs or whatever. If a guy's looking somewhere else, they don't want guys getting lined up to basically take the guy out when he's not paying attention to what's happening in front of him.
And that's what Jason Garrett was talking about the other day, a kind of a walk-off, and I don't think this was his words exactly, but he was just basically saying that if you're not looking, and then you get hit, are we gonna help you out for being a dumbass? I mean, I don't think he said it just like that, but it's just like you got to be paying attention. You know?
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. It's not paying attention as much as it is the ball's coming, so you're kind of definitely looking at the ball. So you can't look at two things at one time. And again, this was we all grew up with an NFL where that meant that you were looking back at the ball, and so a defensive back knew I get a free shot on this guy. They're taking that out of the game. It's just not going to be a part of the game anymore.
Good safety play is one of my favorite things in football. Like Ed Reed, Brian Dawkins, like those, Troy Polamalu, love those guys.
Yeah.
But there's a different, you can put a big hit on a guy going over the middle without launching yourself at him like a projectile and actively trying to murder him, which is what I thought that what happened on that play. So I think you can make a hit on a guy. I hate if it's just a good, nice hit and you get flagged for it, I hate that. But I thought that was a dirty hit. So
now, what's the update on the injury? Last time I heard
he's in concussion
protocol.
So we'll see. I mean, they're probably not going to rush him, especially not during training camp. They can't rush him. So something to keep an eye on.
He's been to Hawaii before.
Yeah,
because he probably won't
ain't
probably
making that trip
won't
this week.
go. All right, well, let's take our first break. When we come back, we'll keep talking about this first preseason game. And, we got a taste from Javis Frederick, and we'll get into how he did during that game.
If you're like me and you love... if you have a thing, then cutting the cord is scary. But then I found out I could switch to DirecTV Now and still get the live sports I love. No satellite needed, no bulky hardware, no annual contract, just...
Get the live sports you love. Try DirecTV Now for $10 a month for 3 months. Visit DirecTVNow.com. DirecTV Now. More for your thing. That's our thing. Use code REALDEAL. Limited time. Price for little package. After 3 months, renews monthly at full price. Currently minimum $40 unless canceled. Prices may change. New subscribers only. Cancel anytime. Content varies by package and may be limited. Restrictions apply.
Do you want the most interesting, up-to-the-minute Dallas Cowboys news straight from the Star in Frisco? How about exclusive and on command? That's right. News and nuggets you can't find anywhere else. With our exclusive Cowboys content on Alexa, you can have all the answers, secrets, stories, and more. What's Stephen Jones thinking during a game? What's Joe Looney's favorite pregame meal? We take your questions to Cowboys players and coaches, and you can hear the answers directly back to you. Just say, Alexa, open Dallas Cowboys.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Will McClay, and of course with yours truly, me, Brian Broaddus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
While a player could look good on paper, it's when he's out on the field that you really find out what he's made of. That's why the Cowboys rely on more than just stats and scouting reports when building their team. When picking a tractor, it's why you should rely on more than just specs and features. You've got to take it out and put it to the test. The Cowboys did when they named John Deere their official tractor. Experience one for yourself. Visit myjohndeeredealer.com/football.
Back to the break.
Welcome back. All right, so let's just dive right into it. Javis Frederick, we did see him at center during with the first team. Did you guys get a chance to look at him and evaluate and get a little taste of where he's at this point?
I didn't really notice a lot from him. I didn't, but again, that's center is one of those positions where that's okay. I think there was one play right off the bat that he seemed like a guy got upfield on him, but for the most part, I thought he did okay.
He got into the game, and they marched downfield, and he was okay, and he felt fine afterward. 9 plays against live competition. On to the next one.
And I knew he would be out there, too. I thought for sure he would.
You were asking us some questions after the game, and I was standing there when you did the interview. Just talk a little bit about what he was talking about. Like, sometimes you kind of – I guess the questioning was more geared to having to get back in the flow and what's it like to have to get. But what's the hardest part of that? Talk about what he was saying to you.
I was asking him, what is the process like after a year away from the game to where this just kind of feels like muscle memory, to where you just sort of know it like in your bones and you're not thinking about it. And he was just talking, it's a gradual process, which, he made the good point that made me feel kind of silly. He was like, that's anybody. Like, obviously it's something that I've got to do coming back from a year away from the game, but you have to kind of reteach yourself that just taking a regular offseason off when you haven't, you take 9 months off every offseason. Even OTAs aren't a good substitute for that. So he was taking me through just kind of the mental aspect of like, okay, I need to be moving this way. I need to be in this gap when there's 2 guys over here. And honestly, like, talking to Javis Frederick about football will humble you real quick, because you're just like, oh my God, this guy knows stuff that I couldn't ever hope to process. And then he has to know it and execute it in about a quarter of a second.
And that was the interesting part to me, is it sounded like what he was saying was the speed of having to recall and execute was the part that takes a little time to get used to. Like, literally making his calls, the speed of being able to realize what his call needs to be and making the call, the speed of realizing, I need to be in this gap and getting there. Like, that's the part that he's having to reacclimate himself to. It's not knowing, it is the recall and the execution in shorter time.
Javis Frederick knows more about what he's supposed to be doing than anybody. But it
also tells you how fast that stuff happens, that he's having to adapt to getting faster at that, right?
You have to turn it from knowing what you're supposed to be doing to flawlessly doing it in a very short amount of time.
It's not a physical thing from what he was saying. It felt like more of a mental thing for him that he's having to adjust to.
So he definitely needs 2 more games, don't you think? I mean, a couple more series in the second game. I think maybe the first half of the third game.
Assuming good health for everybody, knock on wood. You remember last year the preseason got totally derailed because Zach got hurt. You want to be careful with Tyron, and all of a sudden nobody's playing in the dress rehearsal because it's not worth it to get your quarterback killed. But assuming good health, I think they'll just go on a straight line, like, play the first quarter on Saturday in Honolulu and then play after halftime when you get back, and then sit everybody for the fourth one. Although Broadus made the good point, like, do you consider doing the dress rehearsal now because of travel schedules and all that good stuff? Like, they're going to take –
Wait, this week in Hawaii?
Yeah.
The practice?
They're going to take 2 days off after they get home from Honolulu. That'll give them 3 days to kind of practice and get their stuff in order for whoever – is it Tampa?
The last game?
Oh, the third game is Houston.
Houston. Yeah. So Brian was trying to make the point that you don't have a super long week to really get ready for this third game, so maybe it's better to just knock the dress rehearsal out now. But I don't
know if I'm buying
that
they would do that. Maybe it's not a bad idea, but I don't know that they would do that.
I think you see the starters for the first quarter on Saturday, and then a little bit after halftime when they play Houston.
Right.
So
now, an area that we said we were going to be looking at during this game was the defensive line, and Taco Charlton, how he was performing. Some of those defensive ends. Did you notice something that motivates you from Taco during that game? Go ahead, Derek.
No, I thought Taco played okay. I thought his comments after the game were even better. Because the thing about – well, honestly, I think he was, like, exercising a lot of just whatever at that moment. Like
Venting.
a lot of stuff probably just came out that he's probably been thinking that he hadn't really had a chance to voice. Basically what he was saying was, look, I've given up trying to get people's approval. At this point, the way I feel about it is, I just got to do what I'm supposed to do. My guys got my back. I'm going to keep trying hard, and hopefully everything works out to the best it can possibly be. But I don't know. I thought it was refreshing to hear him talk like that. And
what about the part where he was talking about how his agent sets the tone?
Yeah, well,
like,
to me that was just kind of him pointing to, at some point I'm going to be a free agent, and if I do the things I'm supposed to do, then I'll still be in control, and I'll have the last laugh in all of this. Is the way I took it. I mean, you tell me what you guys thought about it.
Honestly, I didn't really understand it. I was like, is he saying like his agent's going to help him get a trade, or like his agent's going to help him find a job?
His deal's going to be up here in another year, 2 years?
2 seasons if you count this one.
So, I mean,
assuming they don't pick up his option.
Yeah, so I mean, I just think he's probably like, look, I can't control what people think of me. I ultimately can just go out and do what I can do on the field, and we'll see what happens.
What was the line? He said, when I play good, people think it's bad. When I play bad, people think it's terrible.
Yeah,
I can't
which is
win.
probably true.
No,
right? Now, part of that is his own doing, because he hasn't been great up until this point.
Hold on. Give the fans and everybody a little bit more credit. When he does good, and people don't think that's bad. Like, so what is his expectations for good?
I will say this.
I think what he means is, like, when he does good, like, he got a sack the other day, and I was taking video of it, and somebody behind me yelled, "Finally!"
Yeah. Right.
Like,
that's the point.
Not that it's bad, but, like, even when he does well, it's like, thanks.
Well,
thanks for showing up.
Something. Yeah, it's like, it's just, I don't know. And I think even out here, and that's a good example, but I think just throughout his play out here, like, there have been some days he's been pretty good, and I think most people by and large is kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah, okay. And I just he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt is the point.
No.
So he's going to have to play really, really well because he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt.
It's a first world problem, but I feel for him, because the only way to win
Amber.
The only way to win in that situation is to play well. Like that's the only way you can
play really well. Yeah. Not just good, great.
I hope it's true that he let that stuff go, because, like, if you're on social media and stuff, like, you can tell that stuff has gotten to him in the past.
Yeah.
It's got to be rough for any player. So I hope he's right that he's put that behind.
That's probably the first time a lot of these guys have to deal with that, because in college you don't get that same level. Even at schools like yours, where fans are very much involved, you don't get that same level of it.
Like your Texas.
Well, no,
like
but
that.
I know because you're one of those fans for LSU. But my point is that it's like you don't get that level of vitriol in college. Like that's not what you get. It's not until you get to the NFL where people that are fans of your team will be like, you suck.
Usually, if you're good enough to be a first-round pick, you were a baller at your college. So, people aren't hating on you.
Yeah, and you can have a bad game in college, and people are like, it's all right.
It's funny when you go into the locker room after the game, and things have changed over the years, but every single one of those guys, when you walk in, is looking at their phone. And I'm sure they got a lot of text messages, too. But they're probably looking at Twitter and looking at their mentions and seeing who's talking about him.
I get notifications for half the players on the team. Like, they start popping off before the media is even allowed in. It's like the first thing they do. Some of them, not everybody. But, yeah.
One of them's not here anymore.
True. Yeah.
He was notorious for on the bus just going crazy with his fingers.
It's a lot less exciting with Cole not here.
Cole, yeah.
And his wife.
No,
she'd get in there a little bit.
She'll get in there and defend her man. So who would be someone else from the D-line that you noticed that stood out yesterday?
I'll throw out Kerry Hyder.
Okay.
I thought he played.
Oh my God, he murdered that guy.
I thought he played pretty well. I don't think any of us disagree. I think he's going to be on this team. Just a matter of what role he's going to play. I mean, I think he's played well out here during practices. And I think he was good in the game.
I think the Quinn suspension just kind of solidified his spot to be here, at least for that, for a couple of weeks. And those other guys, I mean, I don't know if both Joe Jackson and Jalen Jelks can make this team.
No.
Just don't see where.
So right now, if you had to pick between the two,
make it.
Where are you going?
I think Jelks had the sack, but I think if you had to pick right now, I think it would be Joe Jackson.
I think he's been better all around.
He's one of those dirty work guys.
Yeah,
like he can play the run. He's good in pursuit. You know, he hasn't been as great of a pass rusher as others, but well-rounded guy.
You might have to keep them both.
Really?
Think?
You might have to, and then figure something out when you get to when Quinn comes back.
How many D linemen are you keeping? 20.
Well, let's look at it.
I think 11 is like
They don't
that.
even have
11
16 on the
is
roster.
the max.
11
right?
is the absolute max. And
So I got Woods, Crawford, Malik. I'm not gonna go Taco yet. D-Law.
That's 4.
Armstrong.
Armstrong's 5.
Tristan Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Robert.
No, he doesn't
I don't
count
have to
now.
get Robert Quinn right now. Okay. Hyder.
Yep.
What are we at?
7.
Did you get Christian Covington?
Christian Covington.
Okay. That's 8.
Did you get you got Antoine Woods? Yeah.
Yeah. Taco.
Throw
9.
Taco on there.
And
You
then,
did you say Hyder?
No.
Yeah, he
I
did.
did Hyder. So here it is. I got 9 guys, and I've got three players for 2 spots if we go with 11. And those 3 players, I think, right now would be Joe Jackson, Daniel Wise, Jalen Jelks.
I'm glad you mentioned Wise because that's who I was going to bring up next, which I don't want to just completely rip off Brian's notebook. You should go read it on the website if you haven't. But he was raving about Daniel Wise and Ricky Walker, too, for that matter. Ricky Walker is, no offense to him, he is probably like the most forgotten man at this camp. Like he's the last in line on the most loaded position. But he made a good accounting of himself in the game. But Wise, to me, is really interesting because it seems like he's got some juice as a 3 technique. They've put him on the edge a little bit out here, so he's got that position flex we love to talk so much about. I thought he played well.
Something. But something. You got 3 more games. Something probably going to happen and shake out.
It couldn't have played out any more perfectly than it did with the receivers. Like John Vay all day, and then he had a terrible game. It was Lance Lenore all over again. He had 2 drops. He did rebound. He had some nice catches
Had a
after
nice
the
toe
fact.
tap.
But we go into the game like, man, how are they gonna? There's so many amazing receivers, and you come out of the game and you're like,
just kidding.
The only guy that played well is concussed. Like that's
he doesn't even know.
That's where we're at right now.
Yeah. We say all this stuff, and they're going to claim a guy that gets cut, and they'll have him as the 5th or 6th receiver.
But that's also the thing. Like, you start getting to those other guys, and like we talked about earlier, like every team has 1 or 2 of those guys in their camp that they're like, I don't know how they got to keep this guy. You don't want to expose him, and everybody's got one of those young guys that's kind of flashing a little bit.
I will say, though, I do wonder, like every year there's a receiver, and everybody's always concerned that he won't make it to the practice squad, and he does. But if you're flashing something as a pass rusher, I do think that's different.
I agree with you.
You don't want to expose them.
Right, it's the receivers I'm talking about.
Yeah,
and when I say every team has one of them, at the receiver position, I think every team has 1 or 2
Yes.
guys at camp that's like flashing.
Every single team has a receiver and a running back that they're like,
I don't know how you get
oh
him
my
to.
God.
Yeah.
But if Daniel Wise or Ricky Walker or Joe Jackson or Jalen Jelks, like if those guys keep this up, and you really feel that type of way about them, it's not worth the risk to expose them to the waiver wire.
Yep.
Now let's go ahead and tap into the whole safety position, which is a position we on this show are known to talk about for several years. Now with the guys that Chris Richard has been training and coaching, who would be a guy that kind of stood out to you in that regard?
Safety?
Yeah, safety.
Donovan Wilson with the pick.
The obvious one, yeah.
Aside from him, anybody else?
Who's 23? What's
Darian
Thompson.
Yeah.
Darian Thompson and C.J. Goodwin. Those guys are interesting just because that their special teams play is what's keeping them kind of around or keeping them on the forefront, I guess.
Could that affect a guy like Kayvon Frazier?
I think so. I don't really know.
He had a rough couple plays there in a row where he kind of got trucked a little bit, and one of them was a touchdown.
And I don't know about Iloka too. I wouldn't know if you had to pick it right now though. You got to have a backup safety.
Yeah,
that's with some experience.
That's an actual safety.
Do you want Frazier?
I think if
he's a good special teams guy too.
If Kayvon makes this team, and I want him to, it will be because he's a special teams ace core guy. Like I don't think you're keeping him with the expectation that he's gonna do a lot at safety for you.
Yep.
He's been declining, and it's like, to me, he has started fading away a little bit. He's not doing much as he used to, and then again I guess last year he was hurt, right? Like here and there, he was always with a little something. And earlier this camp, didn't he have something?
Yeah, he came in. He had a knee procedure in the spring that he was coming off of. But, I mean, he's out there. He's practicing.
He is. But it's just, I don't know. You don't notice him as much.
Well, he's at that point in his career, in my opinion, where he's got to be clearly better than the younger guy.
Yeah.
Because it's at that point where it's like, okay, well, we can kind of keep getting what we're getting from him, or we can go with a younger guy that can give us a similar production. And so that's what makes it harder for him as he keeps getting older. It makes it harder for him just to be that guy. He's got to take that next step.
I will say, again, this coaching staff loves veterans who know what they're doing, though. I mean, if Keith O'Quinn feels like he can play all the teams and get his assignments right, and if he needs to, he can do some stuff on defense, that might be valuable to them. And, every team has a safety on the roster who if he learns how to cover, we could have something here. So,
but they have other guys that are core special teams guys. I mean, they know Heath is a good special teams player. Olawale is a good special. They got other guys here that are good special teams players. So I don't know that he's their ace special teams guy. Right?
It would not surprise me if the roster crunch catches up with him, which would bum me out because I love him to death.
It's a great guy. I know that as you get older in the NFL, it's a young man's game. If you're not providing something significantly better than the younger guy,
take a moment to consider you're calling a 25 or 6-year-old old.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the nature of the NFL.
I know.
How does that make you feel?
It's different.
Really,
for us.
We had to go there.
I'm just asking.
Different for us.
See,
still feel
I'm being nice now. I don't just
I
say it. I
that.
ask a question now. I'm like, how do you feel about that?
I like
I'm
that strategy.
How do you,
I like that strategy.
I guess this is my fault because I started the show off by whining about the kicker, which I don't regret, but it seems harsh that we've gone this far into the show and nobody brought up Blake Jarwin.
Actually, I wanted to bring him up as a guy that played well.
He played really well.
He really did.
I
really like him.
I stand by my belief that he's going to have to work really hard to take snaps away from Jason Witten. I got to see that to believe it.
Yeah.
But he looked nice, and he looks like a guy who could be really valuable in a scheme where the offensive coordinator knows how to use him.
The more I've thought about it, though, I don't know that he has to take him away from him because I think one thing I know about this team, they love two tight ends.
Plenty of 12 personnel.
So he's going to get on the field a lot. And what I'll be interested to see is sometimes when they're in 12 personnel, they'll keep one tight end back to have an extra blocker. I wonder how that transition works. Does it end up being that Jason's now staying a little bit more and Blake's going out? Let's keep an eye on that because that'll be something that'll be a tell. You won't see it in the number of snaps, but you will see it in the number of times that Blake's going out versus Witten going out.
I saw it was a really nice play action, which yay, play action. That's exciting. He ran a crossing route and got behind the linebackers and it was a nice pickup. But the play that actually got me really excited was not even a catch. He went down the seam, and Cooper Rush missed him. I think they might have drawn a flag. Mm-hmm. Cooper Rush missed him down the seam, but he was there, and he made a nice effort to try to get it. And I was like, yes, send the athletic tight end 15 to 20 yards down the field. That's what we need to be doing. Mm-hmm. So it was exciting just to see that. And I think he's capable of making plays like that. He did it in the Giants game last year. I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued by Mr. Jarwin.
Let's go ahead and take our final break. When we come back, we need to dive into the backup quarterback position. Cooper Rush.
Do we?
Or Mike White. We kind of do.
While a player can look good on paper, it's when he's out on the field that you really find out what he's made of. That's why the Cowboys rely on more than just stats and scouting reports when building their team. When picking a tractor, it's why you should rely on more than just specs and features. You've got to take it out and put it to the test. The Cowboys did when they named John Deere their official tractor. Experience one for yourself. Visit myjohndeeredealer.com/football.
It's time for Tailgate with the OtterBox boys.
OtterBox? The makers of those crazy protective phone cases?
The one and only. They're also wild about protecting parking lot parties from sad drinks. It's why they made elevation tumblers.
Rumor around the crock pot is they're made from stainless steel with a copper lining to keep temps hot or cold.
True. They even come in 7 different sizes, up to 64 ounce, the growler.
I like how OtterBox drinks. Thinks.
And that's been Tailgating with the OtterBox boys. Check out all the colors and sizes of their elevation tumblers at otterbox.com.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Playmaker, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The Playmaker includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized Intense Therapy lip balm and a Cowboys can cooler. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word Cowboys. The Jack Black Playmaker, $10, free shipping.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Will McClay, and of course with yours truly, me, Brian Broaddus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
A man's Stetson doesn't just protect him from life's elements. It projects an unstoppable and legendary spirit, just like the men wearing silver and navy on the field every Sunday. Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. They are still the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find Stetson hats in the Pro Shop or at Stetson.com today.
Back to the break.
Welcome back. This is the final segment of the break. And unfortunately for Dave, we do have to talk about these backup quarterbacks. Cooper Rush, Mike White both got a pretty decent amount of plays in the game. Let's just start off with the one that did better, Cooper Rush.
Yeah, I mean, he did a nice job out there, and he threw a few good balls around, and I thought he took a step forward because, and it was 2 steps ahead because then Mike White took a huge step back. So, yeah, a lot of people were like sending me messages and saying, well, looks like there's a roster spot. There's 2 quarterbacks. Because that guy's not going to make the team.
Yeah. I tried to help Mike out because from my perspective, I was sitting there, I was like, this guy doesn't have any time. Like, he's getting killed. He's with the 3rd team. Blah blah blah. To me, I'm not a guru. It didn't look like he had a lot to work with. So I go to Brian. I was like, you watched it back, like. Yeah, I was like he didn't have time, right? He was like, "Oh no, Dave! Like he had all the time he needed. Like he won't throw the ball." I'm like, "Well, crap. All right, I don't have a leg to stand on, I guess."
It takes a lot for Brian to be like, "Man, I was wrong about that guy. Yeah, that was the guy Brian liked Mike White."
If you want to hear somebody just go off on themselves, like nobody hates Brian more than he hates himself when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. Like Joey Harrington was his guy. That didn't work out. He had a 3rd-round grade on Mike White, which we're not burying the guy yet, but not a great start to the preseason.
But I think either.
Oh, Paxton Lynch, that was his favorite. He liked him more than Wentz and Goff.
And even when you talk about the fumble, like that's still on the quarterback. If he's going to step up, in that instance, I didn't think he necessarily needed to step up when he did. But even if he felt like he needed to, he's still got to protect the ball. That's his responsibility to protect the ball when he's having to go through the line, and he didn't. And so that, regardless of what you think about whether he held the ball or should have got rid of it or had time or whatever, you still got a responsibility as a quarterback. Hold on to the ball, and he didn't.
Did you feel better? Do you feel better about Cooper Rush than you did on Saturday afternoon?
Actually, I do.
I think I do too.
Actually, I do, and I'm interested to see. I'd like to see. I'd really like to see I'd like to see him work with the ones in a preseason game for a little bit, just to see what would he do if he were in a game and Dak goes down and he's got to play. I want to see what he looks like behind that line with those weapons. Can he still move them down the field? Because that's really what the job is if the quarterback goes down, can you fill in as the backup quarterback? I haven't really seen anything that suggests to me either one of them is necessarily ready for that, but I'd love to see it just so I can start getting an opinion.
That's what Parcells did for Romo. Remember 2005? Yeah. He said, all right, I'm just going to let this guy take the whole game. And then Bledsoe wasn't real happy about it. But, I mean, I don't know if you would want to do that and get your offensive line
out there. That's also writing on the wall, right?
Yeah, but, I mean, but the difference there is that you're thinking maybe he's going to be a future and you're about to sign Dak to do all that. So, I don't know if it goes that far. I think you just have to see it when you see it, when it's unfortunate. If that happens where he has to go in the game. But I thought he did a pretty good job.
This is the question I've been asking myself, and my goal for the week is to ask it to an important person off the record. Now, I'm sorry, more important than you. VPs type of importance, like that type of stuff. But at what point there's a line here. At what point are your backup quarterbacks so bad that a guy that has no familiarity with your scheme or anything is better? You know what I mean? Because when it comes down to it, they're going to say Cooper Rush or Mike White, whatever. This guy's been here for 2 years. He knows the offense. He knows Kellen. He knows Dak. He does this. He does that. He knows our calls. He knows our plays.
Mm-hmm.
So he's better. Like, he might not be better, but it's a negligible difference. So how much better does somebody else's guy have to be to where you're like, I don't care that he doesn't know anything about this team. Get him in here. And I don't know the answer to that. Like, I have my doubts that a quarterback that will be made available at roster cuts is going to be that much of an improvement.
I think
because if he is, then he wouldn't be available.
Right. I think it comes down to he has to come in and play. So I think the question of that is when that guy actually needs to come play. So are you going to just bring a guy in to be a backup quarterback? I don't know. But if you have, I think if Dak were to get hurt, I think that then that's when you would say, all right, this guy's going to come in here and play. We got to get him ready. Maybe Cooper Rush plays.
But at some point you have to. I think that's kind of been the mantra the last year, maybe two. But I think at some point you got to get to a point where you're like, okay, we have a backup quarterback for a reason, and if he's here, then he is that person that's going to play. It's not going to be he's our guy that we're kind of getting ready for that day.
It happens.
But at what point is he's like ready to be your backup quarterback?
Well, your head coach that's here has actually lived it. So
right.
He was the backup quarterback until Troy really got hurt, and then all of a sudden they had to go get someone else.
If Dak gets hurt, it's going to be 2015 all over again. Like they'll do a trade for somebody, or they'll convince Josh McCown to come out of retirement. They'll pay him a nice salary or something.
Just, to me, that begs the question then, is he really a backup quarterback? Well,
no.
He's not a backup quarterback.
Okay,
then.
question.
He is because he can do that stuff and he helps you practice and stuff. But, like, I don't believe either one of these guys would be their answer if they needed him for a long time.
You mentioned.
But, I mean, what are you going to do?
Get Romo.
Get the guy
that would be
get the guy that you think actually is going to be your backup quarterback, because if it comes down to it, I want that guy here as much time as possible.
Who is that?
You're saying he's going to magically be available at the time that Dak would go down.
What I'm trying to tell you in nice terms is that they're screwed if the starter gets hurt. But they will, if it comes down to it, they will do something desperate to help themselves because – like, they don't need Josh McCown here right now. But if they don't have a quarterback, they will. And they'll say, we'll give you $10 million to come try to bail us out.
I guess that's my point is, so if you think that's the case, then get him here now, is my opinion. Why wouldn't you just get him in now?
Because you don't need him right now.
Don't need him right now.
Okay.
Is it good? No, but, like, he'll
be better if he's been here and he has to play than if you bring him in off the street and he's got to play.
You're not going to give a guy like that kind of money just in case. Like, not – I mean, like –
there are teams that pay their backup quarterback.
Yeah, but that's a long-term plan, and you could make the argument they should have a better option, and they probably will next year. Like, next year, unless something crazy happens and Mike White becomes the savior, or Cooper Rush for that matter.
So you guys don't think – do you guys think that Cooper Rush has the ability to get there? Like, do you think his trajectory will get him to the point where he is legitimately your backup and you feel like he is the guy that's going to lead you in the event your starter goes down?
No.
Not really.
But because
that's why I'm saying then you're just spinning your wheels. What's the point?
We're not – they're not spinning the wheels. Like, they don't have a way to upgrade that position right now short of, like, doing something crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you could try to draft another one next year or sign an undrafted free agent next year. Like, I don't know what you do about it right now, and that's kind of my point.
I mean, they did. They drafted a quarterback in the 5th round that they thought was a good quarterback. That thought at this point he should definitely be better than Cooper Rush, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah. So, and it didn't work. There's not a whole lot you can do about it right now. I mean, like, some quarterbacks will become available when camp is over, but again, like, will they be drastic upgrades? I guess it would be interesting. Maybe they'll do a Kellen Moore type of thing. You know, Kellen Moore got here on the practice squad, if you'll remember. He was Linehan's guy. Like, maybe Kellen Moore likes somebody, and they'll bring in a guy like, hey, maybe we can work with this guy and see what he's got. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
No one's going to ever think Cooper Rush can do it until he has to do it. I mean, you're just not going to ever think that way. I don't think so. None of you guys think that way. But if he were to get hurt and they're down by 7 to the Eagles and he goes and drives them down and wins the game, and then in overtime he goes and they win the game, we're going to be thinking completely different about this guy.
Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott.
He's an exact example.
You
Because
didn't-
we all thought they were crazy when they said we're just going to roll with him. It's like, really? You going to do that? And
Jameel Showers is better than this guy. You're just going to roll with him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, everybody was saying go out and get somebody off the
Yes.
street. Do not roll. And they went with it, and it worked. So,
Boom. That's just what it's going to take. But maybe that just doesn't happen. Maybe Dak just plays.
I mean, Dak's built like a tank.
He
Knock
can do
on
anything.
wood, but
He can throw, he can run, he can catch.
he did
As we saw.
catch.
Yeah, he did
catch. I was going to say, this isn't necessarily about the quarterback, but it's just something I've been mulling over since Saturday night. I haven't run numbers on it, but just anecdotally, having watched all of their preseason games for 5 years, like when you get into the second half of these games and it's just backups playing street ball with each other, basically, like why? It just seems like the Cowboys are always like overmatched. Like it seriously looked like they get their butts kicked.
by the time the third teams were in there, it was like you did. It felt like that.
It
to me, at
happens
least,
all the
that they
time.
were
Like
just
it
getting-
happened last year. Like it is a normal thing for the Cowboys to not score touchdowns in the preseason. Like that's just a thing that happens, I feel like. And I wonder why. Like is the other team scheming? Like are they trying harder at scheming and the Cowboys are kind of like we just kind of want to see them in a natural environment? Because that's what Garrett always says. He just kind of wants to roll the ball out there. Maybe the other team is trying harder to scheme stuff up because we sit here all the time and talk about how deep this roster is. Well, it doesn't look very deep when the third stringers are just getting bullied. And it looked like the third team offense, their first down that wasn't a penalty came on that. It was the final drive where they tried to go tie the game. Like that's when they got their first down of the half.
Were they trying to tie the game?
Or
we weren't
tried
sure.
to air quotes tie the game.
We
I
were-
think they would have. I think they would have kicked the extra point. If
That
they
would have
had.
been so awesome.
That is peak preseason. You're like, well, we'd rather see our kicker try an extra point than tie this game.
He would be crucified with any decision that he went. He'd be Jason if he would have tried to tie the game in overtime. You'd have to force overtime for preseason. But if he also just kicked it and how many people would say, you don't even care about winning. This guy just gave up a chance.
The vast majority of intelligent fans would say, good, get Maher some work kicking extra
Okay,
points.
and get the
But
heck out of there.
There are plenty of stupids, of course. There are plenty of stupids who would be like, you play to win the game. Ugh. Like the number of tweets I got on Saturday night that was like, I know it's preseason, but I want to win, damn it. I'm like, what? How are you? How do you still feel this way?
It ends with but. You know,
No,
I know
yeah,
it's preseason.
But.
Okay, that's
No,
it.
Stop. I know it's
Preseason.
preseason.
Well, I will say this about the offensive line in particular. Like they had some guys out there playing into the fourth quarter that were guys that might be starting for this team due to injuries or whatever. Like there are some guys out there that have started for this team in the past, and particularly Xavier Su'a-Filo. He had some tough moments out there in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I personally was wondering whether he was really physically ready to play a full game. Like he basically played a full game out there. So if you're just talking about just talent level, Cowboys had talent level out there. They just, for whatever reason, in the fourth quarter, looked like they were getting it beat up a little bit.
For whatever reason, in the fourth quarter of these preseason games, it often looks like the Cowboys are not playing football.
Yeah.
On offense specifically, like the defense, I expect growing pains from rookie DBs and stuff like that. But I'm just like, what's going on?
Is it also maybe the coordinator? And every team does this, so it's not like the Cowboys are different. We think maybe it's about the fact that, particularly on the offensive line, these guys don't really play together. Like they haven't developed the chemistry of a line. And if you listen to people talk about football, I mean, the offensive line is all about coordination, right? It's kind of working together as five.
The 49ers, I mean, they didn't look amazing, but they were competently moving the ball downfield. That's all.
Right,
I'm
I said every
asking
team
for.
has to do it. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like maybe for the Cowboys, maybe the fact that maybe there's something to that. Because like I said, I don't think it was the talent level, but you're right. It does feel like that, and you start getting into the second half in these preseason games, and the Cowboys just seem like, it's just not a great time for them in the preseason.
It happens all the time. I mean, I think last year they lost 24-21. But all of those points came earlier in the game, and the 49ers, remember, came back.
Yeah.
Same thing. I think when they opened the Dak game in the Coliseum against the Rams, the Cowboys ran up 10-0 in the first 5 minutes, and then the Rams came back and won at the end because the Cowboys didn't score after the first teamers got out of the game. It's curious. It's very.
It's interesting because even me, when I was watching the game, I'm like, oh, okay, well, It's the third team for the Cowboys. I'm like, okay, wait a second. It is also the third team for the 49ers.
Right.
I'm like, oh, crap.
And
on.
For the record, I really don't care. It's preseason football, but, like, it is weird that it just kind of all falls apart when the third team goes in, like, all the time for this team. I don't know.
Now we have a few minutes left on the show. After watching this first preseason game, what is something that you're going to be keeping an eye on this week?
Brett Maher. Brett Maher.
I think one of these receivers has to step up. I'm not sure the 5th and 6th guy is actually on this team right now.
Really?
I mean, like Dave said.
That's weird to say because
I mean,
we've
Noah
been
Brown,
talking about receivers
you don't
for
think
a
Noah
while.
Brown's on this team?
Well,
He's the
Noah
guy,
Brown's,
wouldn't you think?
Okay.
Yeah, I think Noah Brown's
so
on the
maybe the 6th receiver's not on here, and maybe they don't keep 6. I don't know. I've just been trying to do the roster here, and I thought I could get to 53, but I don't know if you need 6 wide receivers. I mean, maybe you do.
I mean, I kind of think that John V. Johnson and Cedric Wilson are kind of battling for that 6th spot if they're going to have a 6th spot.
I'm not trying to bury anybody after one game, but, like, yeah, I had that thought too, Nick, where I was just like, I've been sitting here thinking about 6 receivers. Like, do they really need it?
Yeah.
Like, so, but
Gallup, Cooper,
lot
Tavon.
more opportunities. I would like to have a 6th one because, is Tavon going to step in and really handle a big workload if somebody gets hurt?
Is he going to be your inactive though, whoever that 6th
Your
guy
6th
is?
receiver, probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
And every year we fret about it, and every year guys get through to the practice squad, and that'll probably happen.
There's no spot on this roster for 3 quarterbacks.
Right.
There's just not.
There's too many positions you're having a hard time having to cut down, right?
Yeah. The only way you can get 3 quarterbacks, I think, is if, like we said, something happened to Dak, and then Cooper, and then you got to get. I mean, something happens, like let's say, like 4 weeks or something, and then
short term.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm going through the roster, and I'm trying to get 11 defensive ends. It is tough because I'm just trying to go at 9 defensive backs, and that's tough too. I don't know how you go 9 defensive backs.
The defense is where it gets hard.
6 linebackers?
Yeah, but now that Gifford's hurt, maybe, but they love their linebackers.
Yeah,
and rightfully
you
so.
know, we didn't talk about 44.
I think I heard they like carrying 7 linebackers.
Yeah, Justin Phillips came in for Gifford and played really nice.
He played well.
Yeah,
he's a guy they cut right before camp, and then when they another guy, what was it? Not Nate Hall. Who was the other guy they cut?
Well, they released Andrew
Dowell
when he got hurt.
Brought him back, Phillips, and I thought he played real well. It was everywhere. We were like joking with Rob, like Phillips on the tackle, Phillips on the play. We're like, Rob, you're playing great, but
just say you got some bad back.
Yeah, injury really does create opportunity.
It does.
Like you can go, like they didn't even bring him to camp, and now maybe he's got a shot to be there while Gifford recovers.
Yeah.
Well, the guys are walking out for their walkthrough. I think that's our cue to say goodbye to you guys listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. What's your name, Nick Kidman? No, I'm just kidding. For Nick Kidman, Derek Eagleton, David Hellman, and Member Garcia, this has been The Break on DallasCowboys.com
Radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!